Hello friends. Today we are going to discuss about Specific Learning Disability Assessment 2024. I am Dr. Suresh Badadmat, Professor of Psychiatry, working at National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, Bangalore. In this video, I'll be discussing about the recent Gazette notification which was done on 12th March 2024 with regard to SLD assessment. This discusses about how to do SLD assessment, when, what are the tools which can be used. I'll also be discussing about what are the positive and negative aspect of this Gazette notification with regard to SLD assessment. As I mentioned, this Gazette notification was done on 12th March 2024. During this formation of SLD assessment, there was a subcommittee was formed with regard to developmental disorder. Dr. Shifali Gulati was the chairperson. She is a professor of Child Neurology Division, Department of Pediatrics, AIMS, New Delhi. There were other 6 members which are also nominated for this subcommittee. Let's discuss whether this subcommittee did justice with regard to SLD assessment or not. If you look at the whole Gazette notification, they have given the list of appendices, various tools which are copyrighted or it is available free, and this list is being mentioned in the page number 522 and 523, telling that which are copyrighted, which are not copy, which are available freely. That means they have clearly given the list. That means the committee has done an excellent job with regard to telling that which are those which can be used freely, and if you are using a copyrighted, you have to pay. Either you have to pay or the state government has to pay. That has not been mentioned in the Gazette notification. With regard to IQ test, there are 5 different tests have been told. The first one is VSMS, which is copyrighted, Mullen's Intelligence Scale, which is again copyrighted, Wechsler's Scale for Children, copyrighted, Binet test, again copyrighted. The only one which is not copyrighted, which is freely available, is NIE-PID IQ test. That means, my dear friend, if you are working in government and the state government does not pay for the copyrighted, you'll be using only NIE-PID test. And these are mentioned in page number 522 and 523. With regard to SLD assessment, they have mentioned about 2 important tools. One is Niemann's Index for SLD, which is copyrighted, and the other one is grade level assessment device for children with learning problems in school, that is GLAD, which is being developed by NIEPID, which is freely available, but it will be doing assessment till the standard, 4th standard only. Above that, it is not. For autism assessment, Incline diagnostic tool and also Indian scale for assessment for autism, which are both are available free of cost, is made available in this Gazette notification. With regard to mental illness ideas, which is again available freely. Now let's discuss about specific learning disability assessment. As per this Gazette notification, SLD has been defined. SLD means I'm talking about specific learning disability, not disorder. Specific learning disability refers to a heterogeneous group of developmental learning disorders wherein there is a deficit in processing language, spoken or written, that may manifest itself as a difficulty to comprehend, speak, read, write, spell, or to do mathematical calculation, and includes conditions as a perceptual disabilities, dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, and developmental aphasia. With regard to dysgraphia, it is difficulty with regard to writing letters in the wrong way, uppercase and lowercase can be mixed, spell words wrongly, and similarly with regard to dyscalculia is difficulty with numbers, unable to understand the symbols and forgetting the numbers and calculating the numbers wrongly. With regard to dyslexia, it is difficulty in processing of the words, mixing up sounded similar words, struggle to find the rhyming words, finds it hard to say the alphabets in the right order. Another one is dyspraxia. This is regard to difficulties with coordination. It can be difficulty in stacking bricks, handwriting, drawing, avoid joining because they are mess up some things. Dyspraxia can be classified into 4. One is ideational, ideomotor, constructional, or oromotor verbal. These are the various dyspraxia have been considered. If you look at the SLD assessment will be done in 4 stages as per this Gazette notification. First one is screening. Second one is clinical assessment to look for comorbidities. Third one is IQ assessment. And the final one is SLD assessment and diagnosis. Let's look into all these 4. As I mentioned, the first has to be screening. In screening, they shall be performed by the teacher. Either it may be public school or a private school. That means at the age of 8 years, that is in class 3, whichever is early, the teacher will use the screening instrument. Again, the screening instrument for me has been given in this Gazette notification. If the child scores in 3 or more areas frequently, then it has to be referred. It has to be referred to the screening committee that is called as SLD screening committee, which will be headed by the principal of the school. Now, once the SLD screening committee knows that this child has a problem, the parents will be summoned, they will be called to the school, they will be engaged, they will be discussed about the child having these difficulties. The teacher will interview the parents, assess their involvement, motivation regarding the child's education. If the parents are motivated and screening questionnaire suggests that specific learning difficulties are there, then the parents will be asked to go and meet the pediatrician or the psychiatrist. Suppose if the parents are not motivated, what will happen? There is a huge lacuna with regard to this. Invariably, in rural area, most of our children who are coming from villages, taluk, many of the parents will not understand what is SLD. Invariably, if the Gazette notification had casted obligation on the teachers that, or the principal or the SLD committee, that their responsibility is to get the assessment done by the government psychiatrist or else from the pediatric neurologist, would have been amazing. As I mentioned, many of the parents are illiterate. They do not know. Hence, although we are doing screening, and if the parents are not motivated, the child should not suffer. If you look at the Form A, which is present in page number 493, here the screening of disability is done. It is given in 3 columns. Here, there are various domains have been assessed. And in the first column, never, the child never had this problem, you will tick never. If it is sometimes, that means 6 to 7 times in 2 to 3 months if the child has, or else more than 7 times in 2 to 3 months if the child has. What are those? Mistakes in reading. What are those mistakes? Omitting, substituting, adding, skipping lines. Can answer fluently but is finding it difficult to write. That is dyslexia. Writing, reading figures and letters in a wrong way. That is again dyslexia. Difficulty in differentiating letters. Difficulty in rhyming words. And these are the various different 14 items have been given. If the child has frequently scored in 3 or more, has to be referred to the neurologist or the psychiatrist. Now, the clinical assessment has to be done. The clinical assessment will be done by the pediatrician first to look into whether the child has any neurological deficit, difficulty in vision, difficulty in hearing has to be assessed. If the child has this problem, those rectification has to be done. And after 6 months down the line, again reassessment has to be done. If there is no neurological or any physical problems are there, then the child has to be referred to the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist will do the assessment and look into whether the child has any emotional problems, anxiety disorder, or else maybe difficulty in moving out of the house, social phobia. Such assessment has to be done. If the child is suffering from depression, has to be assessed. If the child is going through a severe family problems, need to be assessed. Hence, the assessment of pediatrician and psychiatrist is must, and then moving into IQ assessment. If there are no physical problems or mental health issues, IQ assessment has to be done, either using the list which has been given, and if the IQ is more than 85, then only the SLD assessment has to be considered. If the child scores less than 85, then The IQ assessment with regard to mental retardation, that is, intellectual disability, will be given, not the SLD. If the child scores more than 85, then the child has to be referred to a psychiatrist or else to the child psychologist or maybe rehabilitation psychologist for the assessment of SLD. Here, the options are two tools have been mentioned. One is Niemann's battery or else grade level assessment device GLAD, which is done till the fourth standard, that is age of 10 years, which is mentioned in the page number 782 under appendix 10. Now, unfortunately, Niemann's battery is copyrighted, which is not available under the Gazette notification. We have to be very careful here. What does it? These tools will be used across all ages as been mentioned. This is unfortunate. Niemann's battery will be able to assess till the age of 14 only. That too in English, and invariably they are able to do it in Kannada and Hindi. Unfortunately, it has not been validated in other languages. Similarly, if you look into the GLAD, which is available in Hindi and English till the fourth standard, that is up to the age of 10 years. But this Gazette notification says it can be used in all ages. Imagine a 30-year-old person comes and the assessment has to be used GLAD or Niemann's battery. Is it validated? No. Unfortunately, the committee forgot about this, or else they have deliberately closed their eyes. This should have not been done because the people who are deserved to get the disability certificate may not get, and some people can manipulate and get the SLD certificate. They may get reservation in education or even in the job. Hence, this notification has to be amended at the earliest. Further, we have to understand if there is no vision and hearing problem, no emotional and behavioral problems are there which are mimicking SLD, and presence of adequate opportunity for learning with proper motivation has to be given. That means a remedial measure has to be done, which is clearly even mentioned in ICD and DSM-5, which says that a reasonable degree of remedial measures have to be taken for 6 months, and in spite of that, the disability continues to be there, then only the disability certificate has to be issued. That means it is done to understand whether the child has academic difficulties versus SLD. The child is functioning at the 3 standard deviation under the Niemann's battery has to be the only one who gets the SLD, or else the GLAD score below 40% will be considered for the SLD. Either the Niemann's battery or the GLAD scoring 40% less will be considered as disabled, and there is no percentage given here. Any percentage which is positive 3 standard deviation on Niemann's battery or else GLAD's score below 40% will be considered as disabled and SLD certificate will be issued. Who are the people who are involved? Again, there are 4 different specialists have been given. One is the chairperson who is in government, either the MS, CMO or the civil surgeon. The second one is either the pediatrician or pediatric neurologist. Third one is either the psychiatrist or child and adolescent psychiatrist. Finally, the clinical psychologist or rehab psychologist. Though this Gazette notification is been wonderful with regard to allowing the private doctors, psychologists to be called on board, except the chairperson. That means it has looked into the ground reality. But unfortunately, bringing 4 specialists was not required. Only 3 would have been sufficient, similar to the previous Persons with Disability Act of 1995. With regard to validity of the certificate, the certificate will be done for children aged 8 years and above. That means you cannot do below the age of 8 years. If you are using GLAD, that means it will be used till the age of 10 years, that is, till the 4th standard. Afterwards, it becomes useless. But however, this Gazette notification says that it can be done for all ages. So, as per the Gazette notification, you are entitled to use GLAD for any age. The child have to undergo repeat certification at the class 10 standard or else the academic year of 12th standard if required. What does it mean if required? I don't understand. The certificate issued at the age of 18 or more. More means, can we issue a certificate for a person who is 50 years old? If you look at many doctors, the way they write their prescription, that means everybody is eligible under dyslexia and they can get a certificate and apply for job. Can this be done? This Gazette notification is silent about this. Let's critique about this Gazette notification. They have beautifully given the flow chart. They have mentioned which are free and copyrighted tools. 4 steps have been clearly listed. They have given permission to onboard private consultants, psychiatrist, clinical psychologist, or else even pediatrician. 4 steps and mandatory IQ assessment will be a lengthy process. If you go to any tertiary centers, especially in metropolitan cities or else in the capital, you'll find the SLD assessment waiting period will be somewhere around 1 year to 2 years. And most of the scales, either the Niemann's battery or else GLAD, are not above the age of 14 years. That means they have never been validated for the age of 17, 18, and above 18, none of them have been tested. GLAD is only till the 4th standard, that is 10 years. And both of them are available for English and Hindi. What about other languages? Have been validated? This Gazette notification is very silent. Hence, there is a big challenge with regard to other languages. Imagine if a child is studying in Bangla, whether we can use these batteries, which are in English and Hindi, whether it has been translated in Bangla, whether it has been validated. This Gazette notification is very silent. And further, what is adequate opportunity for remedial measures have not been defined. Even for the diagnosis of SLD, as I mentioned, ICD-11 and DSM-5 clearly says that reasonable degree of accommodation has to be given. That means remedial measures have to be undertaken. That means, do we have remedial measures available in the government? Do we have special therapists with regard to language, with regard to reading skills, writing skills? Whether we can undertake remedial measures? Unfortunately, there are none. That means the parents have to hire the private people. That means we are moving away from the Right to Persons with Disability Act 2016. At this point of time, we need to design new SLD tools for all languages and training of the psychologists who are working in DMHP, medical colleges, and even in mental hospitals has to be done. Then only the true spirit of Right to Persons with Disability Act of 2016 will be upheld. To conclude, my dear friends, though this Gazette notification is wonderful, appears good, but 800 plus pages, any person will find it difficult. Training of government DMHP officials has to be done at the earliest. The copyrighted materials has to be bought by the state government and should be given to the psychologist or to the psychiatrist. And it is high time we need to design new tools in all languages with regard to SLD. Otherwise, we will be using these old tools, which is GLAD, which was done at the 1997. That is almost 3 decades back. Similarly, Niemann's battery, which is very old. At this point of time, we need to invest in research and come up with tools which can be used easily by the community health workers using digital tools, so that the assessment is very clear and can be replicated. Many urban educated parents at this point of time, they are teachers, lecturers. They find their children having difficulty in certain areas. They are forcing the psychiatrist, the psychologist to give SLD certificate. Not only that, many of the politicians who are well educated, they are trying to use this SLD to get the UG seats, PG seats, and it is slowly evolving into a big scam. That means, are we giving this SLD certificate for the undeserved people? And especially in the private sector, many mental health professionals are charging somewhere around 50,000 rupees for an assessment. That means it has become a business. That is, SLD is becoming a tool which was supposed to help the children. The people are making a business out of it, and many of them are misutilizing it. And those people who are in the metropolitan cities, who are powerful policymakers, those are the children who are getting this SLD certificate. And the people who are in the rural area who deserve it do not know there is something called as SLD, how to get that certificate. Even if they come to know, the waiting period is somewhere around 2 to 3 years, my dear friends. So that is about SLD assessment. Thank you very much for your valuable time. Stay safe.